Hello. Quick update on Clonmel. So work is continuing on the site, and if you've seen any of the visuals, you'll note that there was two parts of the land that were kind of demarcated. One was where the soil was turned, and the other was where there was still grass maintained to grow there. They've since fenced off the whole perimeter around the grass, so whether that involves future work being completed on that side of the area remains to be seen. But the potential for extending the scope of the area where they can put modular homes in on that land it's quite extensive. It's the guts of a mile in length, I would imagine, close enough to a mile, and in width. Then it just depends that those fields go over to the side as well. It's not just in length, but it's in width too. So it's a massive land. The potential for more than the 82 modular homes is certainly there, and we will wait and see what goes on. Last night in Clonmel at the Talbot Hotel, there was a community gathering or a community meeting. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Talbot Hotel for taking the honourable path, because they were given almost any opportunity they might have wanted or needed in order to cancel the event. There was people that rang in complaining, made a lot of complaints there to stop the meeting going ahead, which in the world of adults is just ludicrous. Just let people meet, let people make up their minds. People that are ringing in to complain to try and stop a gathering of people who want to speak on a certain topic, if they're trying to stop that going ahead, it says more about the people making those complaints than it does about the people who might or might not be attending the meeting or hosting the meeting, whatever the case may be. So kudos to the Talbot Hotel. They allowed it to go ahead. They didn't bow to the pressure that was put on them. They rejected that. They allowed a community gathering to go ahead. The room was lovely. The staff were spot on. The gathering itself, the amount of people that came, was very positive. I don't know the full numbers, but I'd say it was in the guts of 150 to 200 people showed up, engaged. There was lessons learned along the way. There was changes of opinions that I suppose were kick-started or which reached their conclusion. One of them was a few weeks ago in Dundrum. There was word that the locals didn't want anybody coming in from surrounding areas or surrounding towns. I didn't agree with that at the time, but after last night, I now do. I think while there are people that will come from supporting areas, for instance, we had a brave, great woman who came from Rossgrey and shared her experience of the protest, the life of the protest, and then the subsequent extinction, I suppose, to a large degree, of that protest by the Gardaí and by, I suppose, whatever orgs or whatever people are behind that or along with that. Okay, that stuff is all great because that's practical experience that is very useful to people who are on the same path but a little bit further back than this woman was and this woman's town was. Okay. However, we also had, and it's difficult when you're dealing with large numbers because you don't know who's who, you don't know who has invited who and who hasn't been asked. But we had a fleet of people in from, they sounded like they were from the north, all fine with that. But they got a little bit too juiced up. They were in the bar prior to it, I would imagine. They were in and out of the bathroom. And they were a little bit rambunctious, a little bit overly enthusiastic, and one of them was just outright confrontational. Whether that's just a case of these people going there to initiate some sort of argy-bargy, or whether it's just the drink might have got to them, whatever the case is. But they had very little to offer the meeting. If anything, they would have increased the feeling of intimidation that some people might have in coming to something like that, such a socially charged, not only environment, but such a socially charged topic that people are meeting and gathering to speak on. Okay, so for anyone else that's planning on organising something like that, I would be suggesting you trust your senses, nip this stuff in the bud early, and from my own self and just from speaking and going in and speaking, you need to catch the energy at the right time. You need to know what you're speaking about, and the feel of the room, okay? Not to like just say you speak what the audience wants you to hear at and like that, but you kind of need to read the room and need to understand the feeling as it oscillates in the room, okay? Uh, there's also, in terms of time management, not that anything was late or anything like that, but knowing when the time is right to cut it off and to end it. So all valuable stuff. So the silver lining of that, or the positives of that, is there was a large number at it. There was good meet and greet with people getting familiar with each other's faces, shaking hands, learning names. How's it going? I know you from so and so. How are things? All that stuff. Good connections, community stuff. Actually, building of a community within a community meeting, as the name would imply. Okay. And final point then is that understanding that people are on different stretches of the walk, okay, of learning and understanding what's going on in the world, or trying to wrap their minds around such crazy times. So you're essentially trying to convince people of your perspective, or to not to convince them where they just go, yeah, I agree with you. You're trying to get them to put on the lens that you're seeing the world through. You're not trying to make them say anything or see anything or think anything, but you're trying to encourage them to adopt the lens which is whose foundation is on information, news articles, all that stuff. You know, you're trying to collate a load of information and give it to people, while also working with the idea that people's attention spans just aren't what they should be or what they could be, okay, or what they have been previously. So you're always going to be met with limitations in terms of any of these kind of meetings or gatherings, okay? Because you don't want to overwhelm people with a load of scary stuff. You don't want to overload them with a load of information that they can't possibly hold from one speaker to the next. So there's lessons to be learned from that. Keep it short, maintain a local perspective on it, if that's what your concern is, which it probably is if it's a community meeting. And don't be afraid to nip potential agitators or people whose behaviour is just agitating in a way. Nip it in the bud pretty quickly and lively. But overall, it was a positive, larger numbers than previous meetings, a nice environment to be able to do such a thing, coffees, teas, chats, all that lovely stuff, and building a community again. For a lot of people to come in and realise that so I'm not just an oddball for having such concerns or for looking at it a little bit more askew than what is the dominant perspective that's been upheld across the facade of society, okay? So good stuff. Well done, Clonmel, to the people who turned up, and well done to the Talbot Hotel for adhering to their word that they're allowed to go ahead. And to the people then who want to spend their life just complaining about things, come up and pick up a microphone. Pick up a microphone, come up and have a chat about it. Otherwise, all you're trying to do is just sully the waters and trying to dictate what's appropriate and what's permissible in terms of people seeing what's going on in the real world. So I am under no illusion that these people will stop or see sense in any real way. But there you are. These people are going to be everywhere, and unfortunately, they're a symptom of the rot of society that we're producing such people who are well into their 20s, well into their 30s, and sometimes far into their 60s, and they're still refusing to engage in a piece of information that is the kernel of the topic, or any information that surrounds the topic. They refuse to engage in that. They just play the overplayed hand of emotional manipulation, thinking, but sure, didn't the Irish go out to whatever? Yeah. But there never is an and. They'll just move on to the next emotional manipulation tactic, which is if you don't bend the knee there, then they'll say, sure, weren't the English racist to Irish people? So therefore, to be Irish and to be true to being Irish, you can't be racist because someone didn't like us before. That's what you're dealing with. And do you know what the antidote to that is? Just leave these people talk in a crowded room. Don't even bother trying to argue with them. Give them the microphone, leave them talk, and leave them show everyone how much of a cul-de-sac their thinking is. Okay? So that's the update. Work continues. Travesty that it is. But people are coming out of their doors and they're coming to meet people that they ordinarily probably wouldn't be seen in a room with talking to. And that's lovely. That's great stuff. We even had one fella not into public speaking at all who is took up a microphone to share his experience in the town and blew the room up for a few minutes. And it was a beautiful thing to see. You know, a man claiming his space and claiming his voice on stage. Lovely stuff. And that's how we move out of this stuff. It's not through one act alone. It's by each individual beginning to turn the fire on themselves and go, no more, no more. And I will see you as someone who reflects that flame, and I will walk with you into any fire. Okay? Beautiful stuff. Thank you.